So what is this place and the Brahma Kumari all about? If I have it right, the Brahma Kumari are all about respect for all faiths and all people. They believe that there is one supreme being, and that all the various deities or god-goddess figures worshipped the world over are that same being in a variety of guises. So anyone who worships anything is worshipping the same thing without knowing it. So I guess that all the figures here, apart from maybe the rabbit, represent different world religions coming together in a rock garden. But I'm still not sure who the king of bling on the swing is and how he fits into it all. But overall, it's a great idea, don't you think? One God, one belief system, and all faiths united in harmony. Mutual understanding, tolerance, respect, and peace. And in this world of humankind, what a great big fat chance of it ever happening. Spiritual Intercourse by Phil Wingfield. The protagonists in this tale are myself, Phil Wingfield, and my good friend, Dave Jacko Jackson. Spiritual Intercourse. Veraval, 27th of October, 2017. Veraval is a small port on the southwestern coast of Gujarat. It's not a big western tourist destination, and as we were only there for a few hours before catching a train out, I didn't do any research on the place. The guidebook I checked after the trip lists 2 attractions: the fishing harbour and the Basilica Theatre. The latter is a temple built on the site of Lord Krishna's death, which just shows how much attention I've been paying over the years, as I didn't realise he was dead. As it happened, we visited the harbour and were on our way back when we spotted the subject of this tale. We didn't visit the Basilica Theatre, but we will touch on that later. The subject of this story isn't in the guidebook, but I think it should be. See what you think. The road from the harbour into town bends sharply to the left, and on that bend sits a most curious building. A temple built in the shape of the lingam and yoni. Designs vary slightly, but the lingam is usually a domed cylinder mounted on the yoni, a lipped disc in the form of a teardrop. The lingam and yoni are commonplace throughout India, and you would have trouble getting through a day without coming across one. Randomly placed around towns, in shrines or in temples, but not on this scale. I've seen plenty of lingam and yonis in temples, but this is the first time I've ever seen a temple in the lingam and yoni. Hanging limply from a short pole atop the lingam is what looks like a Japanese flag. There's another one on a flagpole to the right of the building. I've seen lots of strange things in and around temples throughout the country, but a Japanese flag? This is a first, but, as it turned out, not the strangest aspect of the place by far. To the right of the temple stands a nondescript 2-storey building, the ground floor of which appears to be part of the temple complex. A large open-plan room has ranged across the threshold the most peculiar parade of figures made from fiberglass. Back row, from left to right, a kneeling Christian angel, a man dressed in white wearing a Nehru cap, a fat guy in a sarong, a sadhu, a Buddhist monk, and a woman with no clue from her dress or appearance to distinguish her either culturally or religiously. Apart from sarong guy and the woman, all the others hold out their left arms and point. Sarong guy has his arms at his side and the woman is pointing straight up, as if she's in the audience at a gig. Anyway, so second row, left to right, a second angel, a white rabbit, a third angel, and Krishna, who is very much alive and playing a flute. They're all standing, or kneeling, in a rock garden. Facing them is a man in a dhoti and a scruffy turban. If you can imagine a pair of shorts fashioned from a long strip of linen wound around the upper thighs and up to the waist, that's a dhoti. And that turban could be a leftover piece of dhoti linen wound untidily around his head. He is depicted holding out his hands, as if he is begging or possibly simulating a fish swimming. Looking at the pointing figures again, it occurs to me that they look like they are passing the buck. Nehru points across the Sarangai at the sadhu. The sadhu points at the Buddhist, who in turn points at the woman, while she points at the sky. I can just imagine Nehru saying, "It was the sadhu," and the sadhu says, "No, it was the monk." The monk says, "No, it was her," indicating the woman, and she says, "No, it was God." Whereas the angels, Krishna, Doty Man and the rabbit, they don't want to get involved. It's all very bizarre, to say the least. Behind and to the left of this curious tableau are a pair of doors leading to a second large room, which is empty, but for a couple of plastic chairs and more bizarreness. This time in the form of a working model of an elaborate garden swing bench. It's suspended in a frame that's a riot of bling, gaudy decor and a pair of tacky fake jewel-encrusted axes. The whole shebang illuminated by multicoloured lights. Crouching on the swing is a figure dressed in a bejewelled blue and gold robe and a golden headdress. He's posed looking to one side, wearing a strange smile on his face while holding a metal globe in the palm of his right hand. What is this all about? Heading outside, past the fiberglass montage towards the temple, we pass the model of a second Krishna. He's also very much alive and again playing the flute. He's flanked by a peacock and a white bull. On the ground in front of him is a rendition of the guy on the swing, underlined by the words well and come. Well has only one L. Capping both images is a triangular Japanese flag. These designs are all rendered in Rangoli, the art of making images by sprinkling coloured powders on the ground. But there is no information, no signage, no text at all, apart from well, one L and come. I have to assume that other visitors instantly recognise all this stuff and know exactly what it's all about. But from my point of view, this is my 9th trip to India. I have seen hundreds of temples and shrines over the years, but I've never seen anything remotely like this. There is no way inside the main building at ground level, so we climb a flight of steps to the first floor, or yoni level. Double doors in the base of the lingam lead to a small theatre room. We are ushered inside by a lady in flowing white robes and matching headscarf. She resembles a nun in a voluminous white habit. The programme is a short film on the organisation behind this temple, known as the Brahma Kumari, their beliefs and ideals. But I'll get to that in a moment. A final flight of steps leads to the upper portion of the lingam and another minuscule theatre. We sit on a long wooden bench and watch images of world religions, gods, saints, prophets and gurus projected at random onto a large screen, a cornucopia of bearded men. What is it about gods, saints, prophets, gurus and shaving? And gender? The show is enhanced by a laser projector spraying the ceiling in mutating multicoloured patterns to wow and amaze the audience. It's not that great though. I've got one at home. Cost me 20 quid. So what is this place and the Brahma Kumari all about? If I have it right, the Brahma Kumari are all about respect for all faiths and all people. They believe that there is one supreme being, and that all the various deities or god-goddess figures worshipped the world over are that same being in a variety of guises. So anyone who worships anything is worshipping the same thing without knowing it. There's a kind of sense in that, and it would probably help matters if you could convince everyone to embrace Brahma Kumarism. That's my phrase for their teachings that I just made up. So, Brahma Kumarism, or Brahma Kumarism, whatever you fancy. Is it religion, philosophy, or fairy tale? What about this building? Is it a temple, an ashram, or a multiplex? Answers on a postcard to ... So I guess that all the figures here, apart from maybe the rabbit, represent different world religions coming together in a rock garden. But I'm still not sure who the king of bling on the swing is and how he fits into it all. And if you are promoting the idea of a standardised faith, why build in the shape of something quintessentially Hindu? But overall, it's a great idea, don't you think? One God, one belief system, and all faiths united in harmony. A universal equality, mutual understanding, tolerance, respect, and peace. An all-encompassing global peace. What a concept. What a dream. And in this world of humankind, what a great big fat chance of it ever happening. And on that note, it's time to go. Postscript. Some of you will no doubt know this, but for everyone else, here's a little background I deliberately left to the end for effect. The lingam is a representation of Lord Shiva's phallus, and the yoni, the female life force, or Shakti, in the form of a vagina. In conjunction, they represent the male Shiva and the female Shakti indulging in a bit of spiritual intercourse. So basically, with the emphasis on base, this temple, or whatever you want to call it, is one giant knob, enveloped by an equally colossal minge. Our churches are a little undersubscribed these days, so maybe it's time for a new approach. Give Mary and Jojo a bit of a makeover, rebrand the old church spire and stick it through a giant halo. I don't know, they're just suggestions. As for the Balka Theatre, funnily enough, it turned out to be right next door to this place. We saw it, but didn't go in as, 1, we didn't know what it was all about, and 2, to be frank, it looked a little dull, especially when compared to the Brahma Kumari's celestial shagfest. However, had we known it was the actual site of Lord Krishna's death, we would definitely have paid it a visit. Lastly, having only just found out he was dead, I wanted to find out how it happened. The story goes that a hunter, mistaking Krishna for a deer, shot and killed him with an arrow. But what I find strange is that the death wasn't treated as suspicious. I mean, think about it. A hunter mistaking Krishna for a deer. Seriously. So you tell me, just how many bald, bipedal, flautist deer have you ever seen in your life? Yeah, that's what I thought. Something's not right about that. Not right at all. Spiritual Intercourse was written and read by Phil Wingfield.